what communication tools do you recommend when people are separated, they're living in different households and they have children and they still have some high conflict, which is more normal than not? What communication tool do you recommend to keep the conflict lower and for them to have some success as they start on their separation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do a lot of work with that with families, in fact, because when couples ultimately end up with a toxic pattern of relating, even if the marriage ends, that toxic pattern will persist and continue, and the children can still be exposed to it even though the separations occurred. So having a very clear separation agreement, which includes as much detail as possible such that there aren't as many questions or queries to ask post-separation, helps bring down the volume of communication that needs to occur. Ultimately, that is less stressful for the couple, and it's less stressful then in turn for the children. So every couple's different. So when there's high volatility, we really want to minimize communication and minimize any exposure the children might have to that volatility and I think that the clearer the separation agreement is, the easier it is to do that. So all this preliminary work before the separation needs to be in place to avoid what you're talking about, which is more volatility and the kids being exposed to more of that dynamic post the actual physical separation.
The other knowledge or experience that I want people to know about that you just don't know until you're separated is that when you have children, you're still co-parenting. And you're co-parenting for a lifetime. So maybe you can touch on how important that foundational relationship with your ex-spouse is and why you need to invest in it through your separation.
That's a great and a very complex question, because there's some situations if volatility is uncontrollable, almost over the top, and ultimately the couple needs to minimize communication. Sometimes that's in the best interest of the kids. If the individuals are not able to, for whatever reason, control the conflict and the level of volatility, it's better to have minimal communication and stick as closely to the separation agreement as possible. So, in an ideal world, the parents would be talking more about the kids and what's going on. And sometimes that comes later. Sometimes it's the first year that the communication dial's got to be turned way down while things are more sensitive and volatile. And then gradually that can be reintroduced. But what I see more often than not is parents' attachment to communicating more, and it's ineffective and actually overexposing the kids. So my perspective would be evaluate the quality of engagement you can have, and if it's fairly healthy and conflict somewhat free or minimal conflict, that's fine. If it's not, then take a new tact, change it up with guidance and support.
Do you do that? Do you do a lot of support with families after, post, around communication?
Oh, absolutely, because as you know, divorce and separation takes a little time. So, and particularly the first year when you're going through all the milestones like birthdays and Christmases and family celebrations and all the change is happening in that first year, that's the most imperative time to have the support. And post the first year, by then you've been through the hardest part and you know how things work generally. Often people have draft separation agreements and they reassess them once a year as well. Sometimes if they want to renegotiate something or change something and they want a third party involved, we can also help at that point.